welcome back everyone, welcome back. We are halfway through the night here at the StarsWar 11 Asia Closed Qualifier, and now it's time for all of our TVPs, and this is the first time we've seen KingSlayeR on camera. Let's go! Does have the Mystery Gaming overlay behind him, has the logo, has I believe Swan there in the background as well. And yeah, great to see KingSlayeR for the first time. Again, he's a bit of a newer face to the scene. He's a bit of a younger player, but he's up against a veteran. One of the best Protoss in all of China. This is not going to be an easy one. Not going to be an easy match for the young Terran. Is spawning in the bottom right-hand corner. We have Cyan for Mystery Gaming. And in the top left, we have the Chinese Terran. It is KingSlayeR for Mystery Gaming as well. Here we go. And if you are in the chat, predictions are open. Predictions are now open. Place your bets in the chat for who you think will take this. Again, Cyan is one of the best Protoss in all of China, in all of Asia. He also actually qualified and made it to IM Katowice a month ago through Korean players as well. So Cyan, he's a beast in the scene. KingSlayeR, as his name entails, is a bit of a KingSlayeR. He has been able to pop off against some big names in the qualifiers and in years past as well, but KingSlayeR is still a rising star in the Chinese region. He's still looking to improve. He's still looking to really make a name for himself. He's still yet to fully break out into the pro scene. Not completely. Predictions open. If I'm not mistaken, I think KingSlayeR, he name changed, right? Let me just double check. Was he Blooming? He was... Oh, he was Eternity. Okay, he was Eternity. So, from my understanding, KingSlayeR, you know, he has been relatively active since like the COVID era of StarCraft around then. But yeah, I'm familiar with a couple of Eternities actually. Oh, never mind. Okay, I have to be careful. I'm looking at his Wikipedia page. His other IDs are Eternity, the same as the Taiwanese Terran player. Yeah, like in my brain, I'm like, I've casted plenty of Eternity, but that was the Taiwanese player Eternity, not the Chinese player. So I don't want to confuse them. So yeah, KingSlayeR, a relatively newer face to the scene, and he has been getting some really good results. Fun fact: we cast him during the qualifiers, and KingSlayeR, he embraced mech against Zerg. But now he's against Protoss, and he's going, oh my, for a third CC? Bap, he's crazy. But sorry, I was looking at Wikipedia. I look over at the production tab. I see a second CC on the way. That is a third CC before factory, by the way. This is the greediest build you can go for as a Terran player. This is a PSA. If you're a Terran player out there, if you're watching this game, don't do this on the ladder. This is not safe for ladder. This is a racks into... expand into a 3-rack setup, but before the 3 racks is we have a third CC as well. We have very little to defend early on, very little to work with. We have a Reaper, we have a handful of Marines. They're going to be vanilla Marines for quite some time. The Adept is going to be able to trade relatively well here, is being forced back. But KingSlayeR, can he get away with all this greed? Can he keep it hidden? Because Cyan is still in the dark. For all Cyan knows, it could be a 3-rack setup. It could be 3 racks into a stim timing. We can see that we're getting there, but it's going to be delayed for KingSlayeR because of how fast his third base is, as it's about to finish in his main. There it is. Third base is done again. It's not safe for ladder. Or save it for some of these larger maps. I was going to point out the vetoes. We saw the vetoes earlier, and KingSlayeR, fun fact, he vetoed all the larger maps. I believe he vetoed Equilibrium, he vetoed Alkione as well. He got rid of all the larger maps in the map pool, which led me to believe that he wanted to avoid like a longer game against Cyan, which makes sense. It makes sense if you want to avoid like a longer macro game. We're getting into some of these smaller maps instead, like Oceanborn. You can be quite aggressive on this. We're going Concussive Shell first, by the way. Very safe follow-up here by KingSlayeR. Again, it does mean that we can't be active. We can't hit a strong stim timing. We're going to be stuck at home building up Marauders, working on a later stim timing instead. As we do catch the Adept. Ooh, and what did we see? We're checking. We didn't see much. You can see there we only saw the 1 racks, but we have seen just continued Marine Marauder production. which is telling that it's a 3 racks related build. 3 racks related opener. Cyan being active, moving on with his stalkers, being a little bit trigger happy there as well. Has to be careful. Third base now being landed on location as Cyan is still working on his own third. Protoss are typically upper base, by the way. Protoss are traditionally upper base, but we do see Cyan now down in the economy, down in the base count, but he does pick up a Marauder. Very good positioning here by the Protoss. Oh, Cyan, he takes down the Reaper, shaves off Marines, shaves off Marauders. Again, good pickups here by Cyan. Good pickups overall. Chipping away at the army. This will weaken the eventual push, and KingSlayeR shouldn't be moving out until he has medevacs. Starport is on the way, Reactor as well. We're going for an add-on swap into medevac production. Until then, KingSlayeR is trying to defend as best he can, but you can see Cyan abusing this army. Not losing a single Stalker yet. A lot of the Stalkers are low, but they're still alive, which means they can still do as much damage as a full HP Stalker. Oh, we sim on forward, and oh, we won one. We won a Stalker, and we get one here towards the end. We might get a second. We do. We get a second Stalker and almost a third. As we force out another blink, we force out another stim, though. KingSlayeR being very aggressive here. Gets a couple of Stalkers before retreating. His army very battered and very bruised. But he does punish Cyan. He does punish those blinks. Punishes the Stalkers. Behind this, we're getting into Immortal production. Working towards eventually Colossi. Again, Cyan has a comparable worker count to KingSlayeR. Bearing in mind that KingSlayeR has mules on top of his SCVs. So we have a comparable economy. If not a better economy for KingSlayeR. And we'll see how KingSlayeR can make use of this economy. As he catches the Observer, shuts it down. And so far, he's still just building up a Marine Marauder based army. From here, we could get into Widowmine production. We can head towards a faster Ghost Academy as well, which is not unheard of, which can work quite well if we can get away with it. But now we are going to be sprinkling in a couple of Widowmines. Outside of that, we do see Cyan poking in. Poking in, but not really getting too much more. Cyan rushing to his fourth. Now, Cyan does have map control with these Stalkers, but he barely does have that map control. Like, look at how many Marauders. Oh my, look at the insane Marauder count. We have as many, if not more, Marauders than there are Marines. Let's be real. There's like 6 or 7 Marines in this army. There we go, more reinforcing, but that's a beefy army here for KingSlayeR. It's big, it's thick, it's beefy, and it's gonna hit like a truck. Armory is now on the way for eventually +2. Second eBay alongside it. I'm curious if KingSlayeR is going to throw it in a 4th. He should, considering we're thinking about +2. Yeah, there it is. 4th CC is on the way, so it's not going to be a 3-base all-in from KingSlayeR. He is building up towards that next step. Likewise, rocks are being knocked down. Are being knocked down. You can see the Colossi have been revealed. We have 2 Colossi already. We're working on the 3rd. Once we get up to 3 Colossi, then we can commence Disruptor production. So Cyan is about to hit critical mass. Now, something that I'm concerned by with this build choice of KingSlayeR, because of the delayed gases, because of the prioritization of Raxes, this means that this army doesn't have any Ravens. 0 Ravens here for KingSlayeR just because of the build that he has chosen, and that means that he can't quite, like, he has to brute force his way through the Colossi. He cannot disable them. He cannot use Interference Matrix. That won't be an option. So it is a bold kind of play style here from KingSlayeR, but again, you see how like dense the army is with all those Marauders. Like, we can tank some shots. Can tank them. Get good mind shot here on these Zealots. Gonna be able to clean them up. Ooh, we see 2 more Robos on the way. Now, Cyan, he saw the high Marauder count. I believe this triple Robo is going to be for triple Immortal production. Like, we could go into Disruptor. I mean, I don't think either one is a bad option here. Disruptors would be amazing against the beefy army as well. We'll see which one he goes for. If it's triple Disruptor or triple Immortal, or both. They both have their place here. Army pushing forward. We catch out some of these Marines. KingSlayeR trying to split up his army. He's got the spread. He's got the concave. Zealot drop heading toward the main. It's headed for the main base. Oh, and we do have a late reaction here from KingSlayeR. But oh my god! There are 3 turrets in a Viking. We shut down the prism. We have nothing to worry about when it comes to a backstab. And KingSlayeR, he can still pop off. And there it is. It is triple Disruptor production, not Immortal. Now, Nova's a high risk, high reward. They can pop off. They can annihilate an army. Or KingSlayeR, if he's got the micro, he can split. He can avoid those shots. And he can pop off himself. Oh boy. Here we go. Disruptors are on the way. We have a Dark Shrine as well for some DT harass. As we're working towards a ground heavy composition for Cyan, KingSlayeR is working towards a 2nd starport and a fusion core. Almost said fleet beacon. Fusion core is on the way. What is the fusion core for? Not BCs, unfortunately. It is going to be for Liberators. It is for Liberator range specifically. There's a reason why Liberator range is actually going to be nerfed in the new patch, or at least for now, they're thinking about nerfing Liberator range, just because it is a big power spike in TVP once you can get into that upgrade. Because Liberator range typically does force out Skytoss. Speaking of forcing out Skytoss, do you see what I see on the production tab? That is +1 air attack. Stargate is on the way. Soon to be a fleet beacon as well. Cyan, he's getting ready for Skytoss. Thankfully, right? Because we're getting to Libs, Skytoss is going to be a necessity here for Cyan if the game goes on long enough. We're like, what's a good answer for that kind of Terran army? Tempest carriers as well. They're a good way to bypass and deal with high Liberator armies and pick away at the forces on Terran. So we're in for a long one. Earlier today, with all the ZVPs, we had a lot of aggression, we had a lot of all-ins, but for the first time today, we're really sinking our teeth into a back-and-forth macro game. Let's go. More Marauders, yeah. I think Future went 4cc before Factory versus Dark. That doesn't sound unthinkable. Like, Future's an animal. That could have happened as well. That is true. That is true. I think, who did we see do that? Spirit did that on Radisson Station against, was it Raynor? Spirit did that relatively recently at IM Katowice. Spirit went 4cc against whichever Zerg player was in his group. As I do see Ghost popping off here with some EMPs, we catch an Archon, but that's specifically for Radisson Station. Like, I feel like that it's safer to do that on a map like Radisson instead of Oceanborn. But here we go. We do see both armies clashing with each other. We're setting first around. Nova goes off. Force fields are thrown down. Novas, they will not quite connect. We saw one big connection earlier though. As we collapse on the army, Colossi are going down. Cyan trying to go for a run, but he runs into a planetary though. A planetary defending the natural. Let's go. Cleans up the run by. Shuts it down. A very nice trade here from KingSlayeR. Again, he reset that Colossus count. And now we have more libs on the way. But the Disruptors are still up and running. And these Vikings are a little bit dead supply. Nova! Ooh, big connection. Takes down the Ghost. Oh, no. No! Clean feed, stay with us. There we go. We have big Nova there on that Ghost. Meanwhile, Liberators are amassing. We have +3 ship weapons on the way. 4 KingSlayeR is making 4 libs at a time. Meanwhile, we're still building up Disruptors. I want to favor KingSlayer's army if only he's able to make some use of these Vikings. It's hard because we don't want to throw them away because, again, remember, we're preparing for Skytoss. Like, we have the tech to head into carrier production, and in that case, Vikings, they will have a place in this army, but not right now. Not right now as the Zealot run by runs past the planetary. Nova's going off, not quite connecting. Ooh, Liberator's going ham on the army though. Good dodges. One Disruptor goes down. Show us the Novas. As the Zealot run by is getting some damage done, forces back some reinforcements. It's going to be 8 SCV kills as the Marine Marauder does come back home. Meanwhile, on the front lines, looks like Cyan, he's gaining ground. Nova goes up. Again, a little bit lackluster. A much better Nova towards the end there. We take down a Ghost. Take down a Ghost. Vikings lift. Another Nova goes off. Once again, splits up. Okay. The Novas graze the army. You can see KingSlayeR plummet in supply. He has a bank, but he needs his production to really get going. Again, just some rough losses there for KingSlayeR. And Cyan, he maintains his disruptor count. Look at how many disruptors he has. Oh my god. He's got 9 disruptors with his army. He's always got Novas ready to go. Planetary gets shut down by the mass DT. And this might just be too much. Yeah, you can see KingSlayeR is being pulled apart. We have DTs on the right-hand side. We have Novas on the left. If we get some big connections on the Marauders, we take the Novas to the face. Not like this, and now the Liberators are exposed. Again, you can see that KingSlayeR, he's one step behind when it comes to reacting to the army. Cyan, snowballing out of control, breaking through, gets on top of the Liberators once again. And the Purification Novas are just too much. Marauders are trying to do what they can. They focus down some of these disruptors. Actually, quite a lot of them. Oh my god, they're all going to go down. Cyan overextending. He loses every single disruptor. 9 of them fall. And Cyan plummets in supply. Uh-oh. Can we bring this back? Can KingSlayeR still pull this off? He's all in. Look at the worker count. He has half the saturation, half the workers of Cyan. KingSlayeR is completely all in. We have to keep pushing because carriers have arrived. The longer this goes on, the better it is for Cyan. We dive on top of the Liberators. They're going ham on the army. They're trying to at least. But there is still just too much. Yeah, there's just too much Protoss. We have to hold on to the ramp. And we will hold. But KingSlayeR just doesn't have much of an economy left. Desperately trying to retake one of these bases. Getting back into Vikings now. Unfortunately, lost all of them earlier. We spoke about that problem where if we're a little bit too wasteful with the Vikings, then that opens up SkyToss. So the Rabbi comes in. Oh, it takes down the Planetary. Aye. And this was a back and forth. You know, a big shout out to KingSlayeR, who went for a very greedy build, a very greedy opener. Who was able to do well with his Marauders, had a good fight outside of his 4th, if you remember, collapsing on those Colossi. But once we got into the Disruptor production, we saw that KingSlayeR, he was never really able to have those engagements, have the surrounds, collapse on the army. And KingSlayeR, he's been stuck at home the entire time. I just realized, I don't think KingSlayeR has ever harassed in this game. Like, Cyan's economy has been left completely untouched this entire game. Cyan, he's on 6 bases. He's getting a 7th. He's on 81 probes. Like, a Protoss player that's been left alone is a terrifying Protoss. Like, they're scary. Which is why Cyan, he's remaxed. And look at how many carriers we have. SkyToss, it's here. And there is no good answer to SkyToss. Not with what KingSlayeR has. He's got a handful of Vikings, a handful of Bio. Mainly Liberators. And here it is. The Death March. The Death March has begun. Cyan, he's got a death bull of a SkyToss army. And we can't dive on top of these carriers because of the disruptors. That's all they have to do, just protect the carriers from the ground army. That's all that needs to be done. Yeah, we're slowly pushing on forward, engaging here with the Libs. Libs, they're trying to do what they can with their auto attacks, like their splash damage against the interceptors. Ooh, Nova connects. Ooh, another big Nova on the Marauders. Good connections from Cyan. The Viking count is getting higher. is getting higher here, but Cyan, he has maxed out. He's reached that 200 supply, working on shield upgrades as well. And instead of engaging with the main army, he's going to be rotating over towards that center base. Nova goes off. Ah! No splits out of KingSlayeR. Not like this. We're being floored. Another big Nova, this time on Marines, as that's all we can afford. That's all we can make. Marines desperately amassing. Ghosts are now on the way, but it's too little too late for Ghosts. GG gets called, and Cyan will take game number 1. GG. Cyan, he's got like 10 different drinks in front of him. I don't know if you saw. Cyan, he lifted up his can. He has like an energy drink can or like a soft drink can. Lifted up for a moment, then it was like, no. Puts it back down. Fumbles around, gets his shaker. Gets his protein shaker. Let's go. He's probably got a coffee mug there. Got a glass of juice. He's got a bit of everything. Let's go. Looks like asking for a small break here. But again, Cyan, he does take game number 1 here. I will say that the early to mid game was very back and forth. And KingSlayeR had his moments, but you could see that he was outscaled. You could see that he could not establish a 5th base, and once we got into disruptive production, he could never really engage and collapse on the army well enough. As the game progressed, it just got better and better there for Cyan. He did snowball out of control. GG, well played. Congratulations to Cyan. Meanwhile, we're getting ready for game number 2. As a reminder, it's a best of 3. And I want to believe that KingSlayeR can bounce back. I want to believe, but again, Cyan is the favorite player. You know, he qualified for IEM Katowice through Korean players like Cyan. He's a beast in his own right. He's a terrifying opponent. But I do appreciate that, again, KingSlayeR, he's a younger player. He's less experienced, but, you know, he's here for the first time. And I mentioned before, this is his first time on cans. I'm pretty sure this is his first time competing in an event like this with webcams on. So I appreciate seeing him. You know, he's full of hope. He's full of life. He's beautiful, Bob. He's beautiful. But can he fight back? Can he force the ace match? I want to believe he can. This is already a good accomplishment for KingSlayeR, already making it this far. Can he go further? Can he get that cherry on top? Can he go the distance? Let's go. Let us go. Also, I remember, I was trying to remember, like, whose Spirit went 4cc against at IEM. It was Spirit versus Solar, I believe. Spirit versus Solar in the group stage. On Radisson Station. I remember. Oh. Yeah, here we go. As a reminder, after this series, we still have one more best of 3. We still have one more matchup after this. So don't go anywhere. It is going to be game number 2. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner, we do have Cyan for Mystery Gaming. And in the top left on Golden Aura, we have the Chinese Terran. Also representing Mystery Gaming, it is KingSlayeR. Let's go. Let us go. Again, Golden Aura, another smaller map. I did mention that all the larger maps were vetoed. Maps like Equilibrium, Alcyone, Radisson Station, of course. They were all vetoed. And hello there, Mr. SCV. Where are we going? What's going on? Our SCV on a little bit of a journey here, hugging the edge of the map, heading on over towards the center here. And it looks like we may be setting up for a bit of a proxy. It is going to be 1 Rax back at home, 1 Rax across the map. This is not a committed proxy. Don't get this twisted. This is going to be 2 Rax, 2 Rax Reaper. This should be 2 Rax Reaper. We have seen some Marauder variations, but should be Reapers here from the Terran player. The way this works is that the goal here is to get some economic damage done, get some probe kills. With the building SCB that's on that Rax, it can actually throw down a bunker as well to deny mining at the natural. So you can double down a little bit further and invest into that bunker. We'll see if KingSlayeR goes that far. Ooh, as that is not a Reaper. That is a Marine. Wait, hold up. Are we going for the tech lab? No, sure. No, okay, we do have a reactor back at home. We scout! No, we scout! We come across the racks, not like this. Okay, it is going to be Reaper. It's going to be Reaper at a KingSlayeR. Back at home, we're going for an add-on swap, so it's not really a high Reaper count. This is interesting. KingSlayeR, he is getting his CC on the low ground. Is going for that. With the reactor completing, we can commit into additional Reaper production. That is true. But Cyan, he sees everything he needs to. He should be getting ready back at home. There it is. Shield battery already on the way. We're preparing for the worst. We are preparing for the worst. Probe Scout is coming in. The Probe Scout confirms as a command center, which means we know it's not Proxy Marauder. We know it's not like a committed all-in. Reaper has arrived, and again, we shouldn't lose too much. It's going to be on Cyan to micro his heart out and to minimize his losses. Does pull back with that probe. And can KingSlayeR get some worker damage done here? Can he pick off some workers? Some of them getting low. Adept zones away that Reaper. There's a shield battery on the low ground, and the Reaper does 0 damage. Does scout though. Does scout our opponent, and Cyan. He's going Robo. He's going for a Robo opener. Okay, he's popping off here. Marines, they force back that Adept. Reaper coming back as well to try to catch it if at all possible. But a Robo opener is very unorthodox. It's still not the craziest of play styles, but with a Robo opener, this usually would lead into a faster Robotics Bay, into faster Colossus production. As we can see, it's Robo first into a delayed Twilight Council. Very interesting. Very interesting. So a Robo opener is usually very safe because it allows you to get into fast Immortal production and into fast Colossus. So if you believe that your opponent is going all in, a Robo opener is just a very safe way to play. But to go Robo into Twilight Council, this looks like a War Prism? No, okay, we're still going for the fast Bay, so it is still going to be fast Colossus, which makes sense. I was just caught off guard by the fast Twilight Council because, again, that's going to be a lot of gas spent on upgrades, gas that we should be spending on a Colossus. Yeah, you can see here, Cyan can't afford... Okay, I was going to say he can't afford it. Okay, charge is now on the way. When we're skipping the initial Immortal. We're just skipping out on it. It's going for charge first, followed by eventually that Bay and that Colossus production. Or Disruptors as well. That's also on the table. Meanwhile, we do see back at home KingSlayeR getting into fast tank production. Tanks are on the way. This build, this opener follow-up, I should say, at a KingSlayeR is ideal against Blink Stalkers. Blink Stalkers are out. Observer survives. Oh. Gets out of range of the scan. There it is, Colossi are on the way. Now, there is going to be a timing. As we're building up this tank count, as I mentioned, traditionally these tanks are served to defend against Blink Stalkers and to fortify ourselves on 2 bases, but the tank count is getting higher and higher. And we're going to be able to hit a timing with Stim, and I want to say 4, maybe even 5 tanks. Most likely 4 tanks though, from KingSlayeR. As I say that, he's stopping at 3. But regardless, once all these upgrades kick in, we can move out with our tanks and we can hit a pretty strong timing from the Terran side. There it is, 4 tankers now on the way. What I will say is that because of Cyan's build, and he's going into War Prison speed and Colossus drops, by the way. Nina, is that you? What's happening right now? Nina, Estrella, a very unorthodox build here, seen by some of the NA players, the NA Protoss. A Colossus drop does drop in. We swipe away, we get a couple of Marines. Ooh, we do take a tank shot to the face. We take some hull damage as well. Oh, ooh, that was a risky move from Cyan. Does take a lot of damage. But he will get into the mineral line, and he is getting some SCVs. Again, that Colossus is so low. Got 1 tank, got 4 SCVs. And because of the high Colossus count early on, the KingSlayeR can't push. He can't push with his bio army. It's going to melt here against multiple Colossi. Cyan is safe at home. Protoss is safe at home. He's still dancing around with that Colossus. It's still very low, so you have to be very careful with it. As we are dropping back in. Tank shot goes off. No tank within range here at the natural, but we do force a stim out of those Marauders. Chasing back the Colossus. Yeah, the Prism's just going to get the hell out of there. Back at home, charge is done, working on 1-1. Templar Archives for Archon production. Cyan, he's looking quite solid back at home, tech-wise at least. And yeah, he's on 3 Colossi already. Now starting Immortal production. He sees the Marauder count. He knows. And Cyan, he's looking good back at home. He's up in the economy. He's up in bases. Could even start working on a 4th. Speaking of, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we have not seen a 3rd from the side of KingSlayeR. And we should be soon. We have a 5th tank on the way. We did lose 1. But yeah, there's no command center from a Terran. No command center. We may just pull the boys with +1. As +1 is on the horizon. Oh, my apologies. My apologies. There was an orbital. This is the downside of a clean feed. I'm blind. I can't check the building tab. But the CC is done. The orbital's on the way. We're perfectly fine. We're good to go into the mid game. As I say that, KingSlayeR. Oh, can he keep up with the rotation here? As Cyan is pushing in. Tanks are repositioning, but they're on siege. It looks like they will siege up in time though. Cyan, instead of reinforcing, he's going for a drop. He's going for a Zealot drop into the main base. He is deflected. He is denied. Vikings, they shut down the Prism. Cyan rotating around. Oh, gets an SCV. And he's going for the dive. Yeah, this is not the push we're looking for here. The concave of tanks is brutal. Zealots, they get shut down. A good defense so far out of KingSlayeR. And Cyan just misjudging that position. He's rotating around once again. 4th base now on the way for Cyan. A little bit later than we would have liked, but on the way nonetheless. He's getting that 4th. Behind this is reinforcing. No other forms of splash damage yet, as in no disruptors. Ooh, and KingSlayeR is moving out. Does run into the army. Is revealed. And Marauders, they attempt to stim on forward, but the force fields are a little bit too good. They force back the army, and now we can head towards a 3rd. Yeah, Zealots, they do rush in that direction. But KingSlayeR does respond in time. Or does he? The tanks, they lag a little bit behind. Once again, good force fields. We cut off the army. And we go for the mineral line. 11 SCVs go down, but we will lose the Colossus. Or at least we should. We don't. KingSlayeR unable to get on top of him, and Cyan, he saves his Colossi. He's already rebuilding one, by the way, assuming he would have lost one. Unless he did. I saw him get very low. It did get low. Cyan going for his gold. Yeah, all 3 Colossi, they all lived. So he was getting that 4th in preparation of one of them dying. We have 2 more Robos behind this. Going to be triple Robo production. That should be for triple disruptors, but we'll see. Same time, Cyan slipping in. Getting into the main base. Going for a big warp in as well. Does go for the warp in. Catching reinforcements. Do we have enough to break the siege line, though? Again, that's a lot of tanks. That's a lot of tanks we're burning through, and it looks like we get a lot of shots on the main army. We do get 3 tanks in total and 12 SCVs in the main. That's what matters right now. Sure, Cyan, he may not have broken the front lines, but he gets 14 worker kills in the main base. That's a lot of damage. Is a lot of damage dealt. From here, Cyan, he's backing off. He still maintains his Colossus count. Meanwhile, KingSlayeR stuck at home this entire time. We spoke about this in game 1, and this is what worries me most about KingSlayer's playstyle, is that there's been no drop play. There's been 0 drop harass here from KingSlayeR in game 1 and in game 2. Because of that, Cyan's just taking advantage of KingSlayeR. What I mean by that, specifically the gold base, right? Like the gold, it's getting up and running, and there's nothing to stop him. There was no pressure at the 4th base, no pressure at the 3rd either. And I emphasize this especially in game 2 because drop play is usually deterred by Phoenixes or Blink Stalkers, but this specifically was a robo opener, which means we have limited anti-air. We can't chase down drops with Blinks or Phoenixes the way that we otherwise would, and drop play can be quite effective in this kind of game state, but we're not getting it. We're not getting it here from KingSlayeR. Instead, KingSlayeR, his goal, his win condition is to win a head-on fight. It does seem like he wants to crush the main army and go for these frontal engagements. But it's not that easy and it's not that simple. And here we go. Zealots, they do harass the 4th base. They come in from behind. It looks like they can maybe get the tank. Not quite. The tank does survive. At the same time, Prism into the main. We have the picture-in-picture here from our lovely production team. 14 SCVs go down, where came to the production as well. Cyan, his main army pushing towards that 4th. Won't quite push in. The tank line is brutal. We can hit the 3rd though. Oh yeah, we push in towards the 3rd base. That's going to be a kill on the orbital. A kill. Nova's going to be going off. We have disruptors. The Vikings, it looks like they will finally take down some of these Colossi. They get 1. They're going to get a 2nd Colossus as well. Archons, they try to push in, but they walk within tank range. But the damage was dealt, and Cyan, he lost a couple of key units. He lost an Archon, he lost a Colossus, but he kills 37 SCVs. KingSlayeR, he's all in, and we can barely pull the boys. Good tank positioning, though. As Zealots, they collapse in the army. They shut down some of those Marines. They get on top of a tank, and a 2nd tank as well. Ooh, just barely they don't get it. Just barely does survive. They're going to be collapsing on this, chasing this down. And you can see Cyan just snowball out of control. The army size is just too great. He still has that 1 Colossus alive. Nova's going to be going off. They do connect there with the tank. And there's only 1 tank left, and it's over. It's out of position. It's on the right-hand side. It's out of range. And Cyan, we just keep warping in. And again, he was left alone. His economy was left untouched. GG gets called. Cyan, he does it. He takes the series 2-0, showing us why he's one of the best players in all of China. And Cyan advances on to the semifinals. GG. My condolences to KingSlayeR. My condolences. But again, I do think this was a big moment for him because he's still an up-and-comer. You know, he's not a mainstay like Firefly or Cyan or Jeshi or Coffee or Lavera or even Max said in Silky. But he's still a part of this event and was able to make it this far and took down some big names to get here as well. So a big shout out to KingSlayeR. As I always say, I hope that he's able to continue to improve, compete, and next time we see him, I'm sure we'll see an even stronger player. So best of luck to KingSlayeR again. More of an up-and-comer in the region. Best of luck. Meanwhile, we have 1 series left. Congratulations to Cyan. He makes it to the semis. Who will face off against Cyan in those semifinals? 1 final series here. It's going to be a banger. It's going to be Coffee versus Nice. See you soon.